you. So today our guest is really, really special. So he has a handsome face, a big figure, and a big smile. It's a very charming guest. I think many of you already know him. So who is Andy? Now, a colleague actually told me yesterday to say, when she goes back, and she found, many years ago, and her first mortgage from Westpac. And she still had a letter from Westpac, and the signature was
mine, was it?
Yeah. Well,
there we go.
Yeah. So today we will have this opportunity to have a good chat with you. And Andy now is a founder of Gift 631, and she also have a platform called Youth for Good.
Yeah.
So, okay. First of all, I'd like to really let Andy to share with us, let him to tell all of us who Andy is, and what's your three major milestones in your life.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Stella. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for the warm introduction, and thank you to Gree. It's fantastic to be able to partner with you and make a difference, to people. So who is Andy? So as you say, I spent 30 years in corporate, and those years were spent in financial services. I was born and grew up in England, and went through university, and I joined the Royal Bank of Scotland as a graduate. Spent 20 years at the Royal Bank of Scotland, and I'd say one of my three major milestones, actually, and I'll come back to the other two, was at the end of 20 years, I was fortunate enough to be made redundant. And the reason I say fortunate is that if I hadn't been made redundant, I would not have had the opportunity to move myself and most of my family out here to Australia. And I fundamentally believe that great opportunity always emerges from times of adversity. If you've got the right attitude, the right belief systems, and the right mindset, you will find opportunity out of any situation. And then 3 months later, after leaving the Royal Bank of Scotland in the UK, I was fortunate enough to get a job with Westpac. And I initially moved to Queensland, and I ran the state of Queensland for the Westpac Retail and Business Bank. 2 years later, moved to Sydney, and then moved between Westpac and St George. And I had the privilege and the absolute pleasure of being the general manager of the St George Retail Bank. Hence, anyone who's got a home loan with St George over that time would have received a letter signed by myself. Yeah. And I then had the privilege of running the premium bank for Westpac, included our offices in London, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And then a second stroke of good fortune, I was lucky enough to be made redundant again. And just prior to that, I'd actually been to Bali for my 50th birthday. And that was a critical milestone for me as well, because I spent a long time thinking about the person that I really wanted to be and my real purpose for being on this earth. And that really came to light over a couple of days in Bali, when I realized that I believe there's a lot more that I can bring to people working outside of corporate with what I do now than sitting inside a corporate. And a good friend of mine, she said to me, you know more about leadership than anyone I've ever met. So when are you going to stop messing around? And when are you going to take control of your life? And when are you going to start being the CEO of your own life? And that was a real milestone that really got me thinking about where I wanted to take my life from there. But if I go right back to the start of my career, when I was a similar age to some of the people in this room, I'd say the first critical milestone in my corporate career was I had the opportunity to be an executive assistant for the then managing director of the Royal Bank of Scotland. I was a young guy just starting out in my career, and many people were like, why would you want to go and be an assistant? But what it gave me very, very early in my career, I went to every board meeting, I went to every strategy meeting. I saw the way that really senior leaders, directors, I saw about how they thought about things, how they conducted themselves in meetings, how they conducted themselves out of meetings, how they converse with clients, how they converse with their people. And it was just an absolutely brilliant kind of foundation stone in my life and my career. So I had an amazing 30 years in financial services, and then I left, and now I run my own business. 4 pillars to my business. I'm a keynote speaker, I do MC work. I'm an executive coach. I do off-site facilitation for leadership teams. And then finally, I do more traditional leadership and talent development programs, seminars and masterclasses. My eldest daughter, who's now 20, we're in Bali and we're staying in this beautiful villa in Seminyak. And what Emma did for me, she hung around the living area of this villa 50 photos from 50 different times in my life. And we were there with our family and another family. And between each photo, she put a palm card. And on each palm card, someone had written, I love Andy because. And I went round on that morning and I looked at every photo and I read every palm card. And I was brought to tears, actually. It was just one of the most amazing things that anyone has ever done for me.
50 cards.
50 photos and 50 cards. So there was about 10 or 12 people there, so everyone had written 2 or 3. And in that moment, I decided I'd achieve more in the next 25 years of my life than I had done in the previous 50. And I believe many people, even in as early as their mid-30s, they settle. They settle for mediocrity. They think their life is on a certain path. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I believe any of us can reinvent ourselves tomorrow. Most people choose not to. And in that moment, I chose to. And that, combined with the conversation about being the CEO of my own life, was the trigger point that made me think, I've got massive ambition. I've got some big goals that I'm looking to achieve in the rest of my life. And I just made that decision in the moment that the next 25 years, they're going to be even better than the first 50.